pledge.
United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with justice for all.
Okay, good evening. Thank you all for coming tonight. The board president to advise members of the audience that they may address the board regarding agenda items after the superintendent's report. Only those members whose names and addresses are listed on the sign-in sheet available prior to the start of the meeting will be recognized during the business. The chairperson will limit discussions of the item by the public to 3 minutes in order for the board to expeditiously conduct its business. Mr. Manzo.
Good evening. I am pleased to announce that our two groups who went abroad to Italy and France during the April break had a very successful experience. I would also like to thank our chaperones for getting our students there safely and getting them back home safe. The support they provided our students is appreciated, and we look forward to continuing and providing these opportunities for all of our students. And as we've done in the past several meetings, tonight we will also be recognizing students for their accomplishments, academically, athletically, or through the performing arts. It is important for us as a district to recognize their accomplishments and hard work. Without further ado, I will ask Mr. Stephen Restivo to announce the first group to be recognized, followed by Mr. Stanton, and lastly by Dr. Waddle. Mr. Restivo.
Good evening. Thank you, Board of Education, for allowing me to come up and acknowledge all of our fine student athletes here in East Islip. We had a tremendous winter season and a very successful spring season so far this year. The first two student athletes that I would like to recognize are Brendan Muller and Matthew Sundberg. If they could please come up. Unfortunately, Coach Fisher was not able to attend tonight, but I am going to read something on her behalf. These young men were simply outstanding this season. Matt and Brendan led the team to a 15-1 record, first place finish in League 3. They were 1-2 in high average and in the top 5 in high series, match points, and high games. In the county, Matt finished with a 228 average, second place, and Brendan with a 218 average, 8th place. Both boys earned All-League, All-County, and All-State honors. And last evening, Matt was named to the All-Long Island team for the 2nd year in a row. And not only freshmen. Representing Section 11 in the state tournament, Brendan finished an impressive 26 personally in a field of 66, averaging 203 on the day. Matt averaged 186 on the day, and although the team fell short, both boys impressed. In addition, Brendan was unanimously selected by the coaching staff to receive the State Sportsmanship Award. These boys have a great future ahead and will continue to lead the team towards a county and possibly a state championship in the next few years. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Put captions.
At this time, I would like to introduce to you our varsity boys track coach, Mr. Ralph DeBello, and some of our runners here that are represented New York State, East Islip, and Suffolk County in some very impressive meets over the past couple of months. So gentlemen, can you please come on up? Thank you. This year we took the boys to the Melrose Games. For those people that don't know, the Melrose Games is like the high school Olympics for running. These gentlemen ran in the 4x4, and they finished in 4th place this year, which was the first time in East Islip winter track history that we had a group run that well. So, congratulations to these 4 men. Now, people sit here and say, well, you took 4th. You took 4th. Yeah, we did, but you have to look at the whole big picture here. We have 3 10th graders on this team and 1 junior, so they're all coming back. So obviously they know the plan for next year is to try to win the Melrose Games. The other thing that was very impressive for us this season is that we had 2 state qualifiers. Matthew McEntee took 15th in the 300 with a time of 35:51 in New York State Championship. Matt has the 2nd fastest time in East Islip history. So the other gentleman that ran that was Mike Krebs when I first started here. He ran 35:47. So Matt is right there, and I know Matt will break that record next year. Joe Norby finished 4th in New York State in the high jump. He jumped 6'5" this year. The school record is 6'8", and Joe had a chance to meet the high jumper last week. He came to my practice, another former student, Jay Millard, and he was working with Joe and told Joe that he wants him to beat his record. So Joe has another 2 more years to try to do that. So congratulations to these guys on an outstanding season. I want to thank the parents because that was a difficult trip to put together. I'd like to thank Mr. Restivo for allowing us to go. When you have to go to compete in the Melrose Games, you have to go to New York City. Very expensive to go in and do that type of trip, and it takes the whole entire day. So thank you for everybody. I'd also like to thank, there's a lot of guys that are in the room right now that are on the robotics teams that are part of the winter track program as well. They helped out as well, filling in some of the spots. I'm just going to punch off a few names for them. James Kelly, he also ran in with us at that with the 4x4 team. Jack Ravano, I see Lou Attard in there. So I'd just like to thank those guys as well. They were also part of our winter track program. Okay, and thank you. Thank you again, Mr. Steve. All right, how about a nice round of applause? I'd like to introduce Jason Stanton. He will be recognizing some of our students here in East Islip as well.
I'd like to invite up students from our cosmetology program and their teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez. So I just wanted to say a few words. On March 21st, 4 of our East Islip cosmetology students participated in our first ever Skills USA competition. For those of you that don't know, to quote the great Mr. Tabello, the Skills USA competition is like the Olympics for career and technical education. The competition took place at Suffolk Community College and involved schools from both Suffolk and Nelson County. Gianna Belcito, Amy Marin, Brianna Encarcion, and Gianna Urena competed against cosmetology students from all over Long Island. Juniors Gianni Belcito and Amy Marin had to compete in haircut as well as evening style updo and a finger wave and roller set similar to what they would perform on their actual licensing examination. For those of you that don't know, all these things are extremely difficult, and you pay a ton of money for that in your salon every night. These girls worked incredibly hard, doing the same updo over and over until they perfected their work for the competition. Senior Brianna Encarcion and Gianna Urena also competed after winning our class competition, which was judged by cosmetology teachers all over the United States. At the competition, Brianna and Gianna completed evening style updo and the required state board haircut. Both girls did incredibly well. Their work was so professional, hearing other schools compliment them was the highlight of the day. After the students competed, they attended an awards luncheon. Only 6 total places were given. In total, 3 of the juniors and 3 to the seniors. In the junior category, there were 31 competitors in total, and East Islip cosmetology student Gianna Belcito placed second among all juniors. Congratulations. This was the culmination of many weeks of work within the classes. I can't stress enough the dedication that the students and Mrs. Rodriguez have for the program. We are open for business every Friday to the public. Please contact us. Go on to Parent Square, all the information is there. These wonderful students will, do whatever you want as far as, hair cutting, nails. My own family comes regularly, so if it's good enough for my family, it's good enough for all of you. Thank you again, and I really, I can't thank the Board of Education, Mr. Manzo, who really was instrumental in bringing the program here, and just the continued support, that the students have given to the program. We have almost 40 students in the program next year. This has grown tremendously over the last 4 years and exponentially, because of all the dedication that, the Board of Education, the principal, Mr. Bernard, who couldn't be here tonight, he's busy at his prom meeting, and the superintendents here in the district. So again, thank you to everyone, and thank you to all the students participating. Mr. Zachary wanted I also get my hair buzzed there as well. So yes, I am a regular. Okay, I'd like to bring up our robotics team and Mr. Connor. I work extremely late hours, and almost every single night, I can tell you, these people here to my left, they're way later than I am working on the robot for these competitions. I cannot stress enough, again, the dedication that these students have to the program, the amount of hours that they sacrifice in their personal lives in order to make sure that we have the most competitive program around. We participate in competitions at the highest level. We also select the competitions that we go into. So Mr. Connell's instrumental in picking these programs and always kind of placing this team against the upper echelon in the Dexter robotics competitions. East Islip participating and in Belmore JFK High School. This year's VEX VRC spin-up game consisted of the students using their robot to push and prod other robots out of the way, as well as shoot all the little, I call them foam balls, little foam balls into the event tube. The all-day event in Belmore's JFK Kennedy High School featured over 45 teams from around the tri-state area. Each Islip ranked in the top 10, performing at a very high level throughout the day. Most impressive, they walked away with the Special Build Award, which was voted on by the panel of judges during the event. This award is presented to the team that builds the most outstanding robot in the event, not necessarily the winner. Although all of us there, including myself, believe we should have been the winners. Students from the team were interviewed and asked specific questions about their design. The one thing that I really enjoy going to these competitions and being in the class, especially seeing Mr. Connell teach, is everything is student-driven. This isn't a class where, Mr. Connell says, well, this is the best robot design to win the competition, maybe we should just do this. These students design, engineer, and problem solve to make the best possible robot in the competition, and they have to do it on their feet. So in between, each time the robot goes out into the competition, they have to make adjustments. We're hauling, huge amount of tools with us down to these competitions. We have special machinery down in the robotics room. They're cutting the smallest little inches, centimeters, out of all the little pieces to make sure they fit to give us the best advantage in these games. The East Islip Robotics team members also received certificates from New York State Senator Alexis Wake. So that was also very enjoyable. You can see pictures of all this stuff on our website. I just found out 30 seconds before our presentation that Louis Attard received the VEX Robotics Scholarship for Embry-Riddle, the Aerospace Engineering School. So while I'm highlighting these two programs today, again, high school should be a place for every student to find themselves. And when we look at what the Board of Education has done, when we look at these programs that Mr. Manzo has been instrumental in bringing here over the years and all the years that I've been here working with him, we have created this culture here where every student can find themselves here in East Islip. Be it on robotics, be it in an automotive program, be it in a cosmetology program. And the continued support by the parents in the community, by the Board of Education, again by the administrators, at all levels. I cannot stress enough how proud I am to be here. I cannot stress enough just how great everyone is here, all the teachers and everyone, all the students within these programs. Have all these for you guys. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I just want to say 2 words, and I would be remiss if I didn't give Mr. Stanton credit. He has done tremendous work with the students and with the faculty that oversees the program. So thank you, Mr. Stanton.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Wadawa, and I'd like to bring up Mr. Neski and our all-county music seniors. to be recognized for all the work that they have done. So come on up. So I want to explain some of the things that these wonderful musicians have done. So these are a few of the best seniors in our music program, and they are nominated every year for a great opportunity to participate in what's called SCMEA. Now, most of these musicians started performing in the 4th grade and have participated in NISMA. And there are tens of thousands of students across the state that participate in NISMA. Tens of thousands. Of those tens of thousands, I'm pretty sure there's probably about 10 or 12,000 of them that are seniors alone. They have an opportunity over the years to participate in SCMEA, which is Suffolk County Music Association. So they perform with Suffolk County musicians across Suffolk County. Oftentimes they have the chance to go to all state and perform with students from the state, and they were in their grade level. These seniors have the opportunity to work with seniors and seniors only. They were nominated in the spring of last year, and in the fall of this year, they went up to Rochester and they performed with all of the seniors across our state. Now, I come from a district that graduated students that was about double the amount of students as East Islip, and each year we have maybe 3 all-county students that would go as seniors. The strength of our program, because of our amazing teachers, the foundation of our elementary school program, the support of our Board of Education in everything that we do, support of our superintendents, assistant superintendents, and our parent organization, EI MAPS. These children, we had 12 students that were selected to participate out of tens of thousands at the state level. And this is the senior class that was represented for our school, East Islip. So they all deserve a round of applause. Like I had said, it's also vitally important that we recognize all of the teachers who have poured countless hours of time into all of their years of education here. You have had 9 years in the music program or more, and you have grown as individuals. I've gotten to know many of you personally, and they are amazing people. Many of them are going to go on to music education or music performance because of our outstanding program and because of the strength of our program. But that, of course, starts with the support from home and all of the things that each of your parents do. So when you leave here tonight, make sure you thank your parents, okay? And of course, our Board of Education and our superintendent and assistant superintendent. So let's give all of our teachers a round of applause. And thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Nesky. And thank you, everybody. Congratulations.
Don't forget the moms. There you go.
So, I'd just like to congratulate our students who were recognized this evening. You are the true epitome of EI pride, so thank you for all you do. And we look forward to seeing you in the future.
Mr. Harrison.
Anyone go down to Great River?
Plenty of seats in front. Feel free to move up. All right, Mr. Harrison's going to give now his third budget presentation and final one. This is time tonight to approve, hopefully, next year's budget to be put up in May. Mr. Harrison.
Thank you very much. I'd like to once again thank the Board of Education, Superintendent Menzo, my colleagues and staff. We're here tonight to make the third presentation of the budget. And as Mrs. Zachary correctly stated, the board has a resolution tonight to adopt the budget that is going to go on the May 16th ballot. Much of the presentation is the same that we've seen in the previous two, so I am going to go through and mention some of the highlights rather than get into a lot of the detail. Certainly afterwards, the board will have the opportunity to ask any questions that they'd like. So we'll start by going over the revenue, then we'll head into expenses. We'll talk about what a contingent budget is, and also talk about the second proposition on the ballot for May 16th, which is a capital reserve proposition. Okay, so overall, state aid is remaining relatively flat from this year to next year, going up by 0.56% or $231,000. I'd like to mention here that the district here only gets the bare minimum increase to foundation aid. Foundation aid is our major contributor to state aid at $29 million. Because of the district's demographics, each year we'll get the bare minimum, which happens to be 3% going into next year, or $845,000. Included in the governor's budget is the increased allocation for universal pre-kindergarten, which will increase our number of slots by 62 students, for a total of 179 students eligible for universal pre-K going into next year. This snapshot looks at state aid from year to year, and you'll notice comparing 2008 to 2009, we really haven't received that much of an increase in our state aid, and that's just showing how restrictive our revenue sources are in the district. The drop in state aid from 08-09 to 09-10 was due to the recession, and you can see that the district lost quite a bit of state aid, which was not uncommon to districts across the state. However, it took us a good 8 years to recover, and since then, state aid has been relatively flat. So over a 15-year period, state aid is going up a little more than $4 million, which is not a large percentage. The other major contributor to revenue is our tax cap, our tax levy, and the calculation going into next year would have allowed the district to go up as high as 2.18% as an increase over the previous year's levy. Now, we could have been 2.18 and only required a 50% approval rating from the community, 50% plus one from the community. After much discussion, the Board of Administration has put together a budget that is supported by a 1.4% tax levy, which is almost $600,000 less than the maximum that we could have went out in our tax levy. So rather than going out to the cap of 2.18%, the budget is supported by a levy of 1.4% increase over the previous year, which is an increase of roughly $1 million. I'd like to point out that as we go into the following year, 24-25, the pilot payments that the district has been receiving will cease to exist, more than likely, So those will be added to our tax levy. So we have to be careful in that year not to go much below the cap, because we would be losing that much in revenue that we've been receiving on an annual basis, close to $1 million. So on this page, we just have a bar graph comparing what the levy could have been to what it has been. So as I said earlier, 2023-24, we're going out with a 1.4% increase instead of a 2.18% increase. The previous year, the cap was lower, but we did go to the cap in the previous 2 years. And if you look over the previous 5 years, going back to 2015-16, the district has been well below the cap in each of the years. So this line chart here shows the gap between the approved tax levy amount versus what we could have went out. And each year that you don't go to the cap, there is a gap, and you can look to 2019 as 20 as an example. We could have went out as high as 73.3 million, but we went at a 71.9 million, a full 1.4 million below the tax levy cap. And again, that same thing is holding true for 23-24. Our cap is higher than the amount we're going out, comparing the 75.2 million to the 74.7 million. Each year, a decision that is made to go below the tax levy cap is costing what's considered an opportunity cost. So if we went to the cap in each year and built upon that cap cumulatively, our tax levy could be as high as $83.7 million right now. However, because decisions were made to go below the cap, we're only taxing at $74.7 million. So there's about $9 million in funding that was not acted upon because of decisions to be below the cap for the benefit of the community. So in terms of an average homeowner, if when we're going out with a 1.4%, that would represent approximately $108 increase to the annual tax bill on average in the community. And as you can look at the chart here, again, going back to 2013-14, you can see where tax levy has been kept in line, impacting school taxes minimally over that time frame. If you look back, it's a little more than a $200 increase over 13-14 school tax. So this pie graph just delineates the revenue contributors, and as you can see, that 59% of our revenue is made up of property taxes, and the next larger contributor is state aid at 33%. Between those two items, we're well above 80% of our budget being supported in those two areas. So if you have an opportunity to grab a presentation, there's very many initiatives that have been either accomplished or will be accomplished going into next year's budget. So there are a lot of these items, so I'd ask that each one of you review this at your first opportunity. And now looking at the expense side of the budget, salaries and benefits, which makes up the majority of our appropriations budget, is going up slightly at 1.61%. The majority of that increase is driven off the increase in the health insurance premiums that the district will see next year. And you can see that employee benefits going up $2 million, and the major contributing factor to that is health insurance. And overall, again, salary and benefits going up 1.61%. Other items contributing to expenditures are going down slightly at 1.37%. There are fluctuations in each of the categories. Overall, the budget being adopted tonight by the board, or presented to the board for adoption, going up slightly over $1 million, or 0.81%. That budget for 23-24 totals at $125,761,933.50. The next two slides depict what each category represents of the total budget. So not unlike every school district in the state, close to 74% of our expenses are made up of salary and benefits. And here are the remaining parts of our budget with the fluctuations from one category to the next. So a new screen for this presentation is a screen defining what a contingent budget is. If the budget's defeated on May 16th, the Board of Education has the decision to make. They can go right to a contingent budget, or they can put the budget up for a second vote in June. What has to be subtracted from a contingent budget from the budget we just talked about are all expenses relating to student supplies and equipment. And contingent expenses are those deemed to be absolutely necessary to operate and maintain the educational programs, preserve property, and ensure the health and safety of students and staff. So the impact of a contingent budget is quite tragic. We'll go over that in a couple of minutes. In addition, the tax levy that's supporting the levy cannot go up any higher than the current year's tax levy. And finally, there's an administrative component that has to be reviewed and looked at that would also lead to additional cuts. So on the far right-hand side of this chart, the contingent budget would be $123,645,000, which is a decrease of $1.1 million compared to the 22-23. So really, what you would have to do is add the two numbers in the second and third column to understand the impact of going to a contingent budget. So over $2.1 million would have to be trimmed from the proposed budget tonight to get to contingency. Again, quite a harsh reality if we have to be at that stage. So again, some more data just showing various data points, the tax levy over the past 10 years or so. The percent increase in that tax levy, if you look at the last 5 years, has averaged at 0.93%, well below the cap in any of those years. In addition, to help support the budget, to make up the deficit between revenue and expenses, the district is considering using $4.8 million in surplus to help fund the budget. So there will be a second proposition on the ballot on May 16th. It's a capital reserve. This reserve was approved on May 17th of 2016. Currently, there's a balance of $2 million. In order to spend that money, we have to put it up to vote for the community, and that's what we're doing May 16th. We've used this several times over the past years. One, to help support the current bond project. Two, to fund another potential $5.9 million in additional projects, and another $2 million to help complete the district-wide interior door project, and also to finish up with the exterior doors and potentially for additional security enhancements. Now, these funds are outside of the general fund budget. They're not impacting the tax levy in any way going forward into 23-24. So these funds are set aside and being used prudently to pay for projects without impacting the taxpayer. So as mentioned several times tonight, the board is being asked to adopt the budget. The next meeting will be May 2nd, which will be a budget hearing, and then finally culminating in the vote on May 16th, which will be here from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. So at this point, I'd like to open up for any questions or comments from the board.
Mr. Harrison, can you explain the difference between a tax levy and an increase in tax rate?
Sure. The tax levy is the difference between the dollar amount of the levy being presented to the town of Islip. So as we spoke about, just to put some numbers together here, the increase from $73.6 million from the levy from this school year to the levy that we're asking for from the 23-24 school year, which is again going up 1.4%. There are other factors involved in determining a tax rate, one of which is the assessed valuations of properties throughout the district. If they go up in total, and mainly for the homestead proportion of the district, the tax rate will more than likely be lower on average than the 1.4% being put forth to the district residents. This is something that I can point out on page 9. So last year, for the 22-23 school year, we went out with a 0.93% tax levy increase. However, due to changes in assessed valuations and the proportion between homestead and non-homestead, the actual impact to the homestead population was almost negligible.
Thank you.
Just a couple quick ones. You know, we've been talking about the door project for a number of years right now. And the door project it's not, the doors are interior doors for security reasons, right?
That's correct.
And the exterior doors are for security as well.
That's correct.
So we're upgrading. So at the end of this present one that we're voting on this year, every door in the district is going to be a secure door.
Yes.
All right. The other thing I wanted to ask you was, you said in the presentation that the $2 million in benefits is mostly due to health insurance. What else would you say is part of that $2 million increase besides health insurance? What other thing? I was just asking, curious to ask.
Well, there's fluctuations amongst the categories. For instance, I'll give you some information. Talk about the retirement contribution systems, TRS and ERS. We have some fluctuations there.
Gotcha. All right, so if I'm reading page 14 correctly, right, it says that salaries have gone down about, and miscellaneous costs have gone down about $500,000, and employee benefits have increased $2 million.
Right, that's correct.
So, and overall, we have an increase in just that one page, $1.5 million, while the budget's only going up $1 million. That's correct?
Yes.
All right, and the last thing I wanted to ask about that was, the BOCES, of all the other non-salary budget drivers, the BOCES salary, the BOCES number is close to $1 million. Can you just explain why that's higher this year compared to the past year?
Sure.
I remember you said it, but I can't remember.
Sure. OC is a very broad category. I'm just going to flip that page.
It's page 15.
Yep.
It's not the highest percentage increase, but it's the highest actual dollar increase.
There's several things impacting that line. One of them is we're adding some technology staff that is being hired through BOCES, potentially for next year. In addition, we have an E-rate project that traditionally been budgeted in another line prior years, but it's more appropriately budgeted in the BOCES line.
Oh, okay.
So those are the two main contributors, and also that includes the special ed component, which is roughly $3.6 to $3.8 million, so anticipating an increase in that line going for next year. So I would say those are the three major components contributing to that increase.
So a lot of these increases are due to actions beyond what we can control.
I would say most.
Most.
And since it built on that, what Billy's saying, so if the benefits went up $2 million, and the budget's only going up $1 million. I know that it comes from a lot of pots, but essentially, we're taking the money out of reserves and the difference. We could have taken less out of reserves and asked the taxpayers to fit the whole bill for those increases, right?
Oh, certainly that could be an option. In addition, the district is right now going through a period of retirements, salary side, so we're able to replace higher salaried employees with new entries to the profession. So both would have similar.
And then, New York State, which is always normally very functional, still does not have a budget. They're still meeting on that. So we don't know what dollar amount we're getting from the state. Here we are asked to adopt a budget tonight. Could that number increase that we're getting from the state and state aid when and if they ever agree to a budget? And what would be the impact of that on our adopted budget tonight?
It rather handcuffs districts because you're not allowed to necessarily increase budget previously adopted. So we'd have to carefully look at what that increase is. I'm led to believe that a lot of the potential increases may be outside of what would normally be supported in the general fund budget. So we'll have to look at what comes from approved budget.
Thank you.
Mr. Harrison, another question on page 15. The transportation went up 24%. Do you know what the driving factor of that was?
Transportation is going up 4.5%. The percentage increase is 2 columns to the left. I throw some other data in there, so I'm sorry to confuse muddle the waters, but it's going up by 4.5%, and most of that is contractually increased based upon a 5-year arrangement with our contracted vendor. In addition, when we look at transportation for the upcoming year, we tend to be a little conservative and budget appropriate for additional routes that may come up from special ed. But it's going up by 4.5%.
Mr. Harrison, I just had a question for you. On page 20, you were showing us the tax levy and budget, the historical information from year 2014-15 through current. Am I reading this right? That says that the 5-year in average for the last 5 years now, based on these tax levies, is less than 1%?
Yeah, that's correct.
So that would represent approximately like $1 million, or am I incorrect with that?
The tax levy is 75, that would vary to Mr.
Correct.
Tobin. So it'll be roughly 750.
Oh, 750,000. Thank you.
Steve, when I got my tax bill, it said East Tyson School District, 0. But we didn't approve a 0 last year. What was the number last year that was approved by the board?
0.93%.
0.93. So we approved, and the community approved a 0.93% increase, but it ended up being 0 for those reasons that you stated before as far
That's
as
correct.
assessment. So even if we approve the 1.4 tonight and the community hopefully approves the 1.4, there's a chance, maybe a good one historically compared as we look at past years, that that number is going to end up being less than 1 anyway.
Where history supports that.
Thank you. Yeah. Mr. Harrison, as always, thank you very much for your presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
Again,
Thank
very
you.
well done.
Thank you for your support.
Definitely next year we need to use some soothing background music though.
Maybe we'll
A theme song, a Steve Harrison theme song.
you don't find this soothing as well? Maybe next year we'll check with the
little
fire
shout
commission.
out.
Maybe we could lock the doors and keep everybody here so they can hear all this great information.
Maybe great
Yes.
if Steve comes through a curtain.
Let's do Steve's presentation before the awards, so all the parents stay.
Oh, my goodness. I would never do that to people like
Oh, that would guarantee if you own a notebook. Anything else, Mr. Manzo?
Just again, a huge thank you to Mr. Harrison, Dr. Bells, Dr. O'Rourke, for working as a team and getting this budget together and keeping it so that it's sensitive to the taxpayer while providing opportunities for our students. And also Mr. Harrison's office, they put a lot of time into this. So thank you.
Yes, the team works very hard to keep those expenses down while, making sure the kids get everything that they need and want. So thank you, Mr. Manzo, your team, Dr. Bells, Dr. Rourke, Mr. Harrison, everybody who participates tonight, from our principals at the building level, directors. All of them work very hard to make sure the kids are getting everything and then some. Our teachers, while keeping always, in mind the cost and expense of doing so. And that's one of the great reasons why we've been able to keep taxes down over the last 10 years. So thank you guys for all the work that you do on it. Anything else, Mr. Manzo? Your report's become very Dolan-like, I see.
54 minutes.
Okay, public comments. Public comments on agenda items, and please, that includes the budget. and things that you just heard from Mr. Harrison. If you have any questions, if you'd like, before we vote on it, we'd love to hear from our crowd, our massive crowd here tonight. If you have any questions on the budget or anything else on the agenda, this is your time. Okay, Frank.
As far as bus routes go, I see it's a fairly large expense. How does that work in terms of who, I think next year my daughter probably doesn't get a bus, but there's a bus stop literally a block away. So how does that work? Because I know there have been some students who were told that they can't take the bus home, they can't take the bus there, they live a mile and a half, whatever the cutoff is, I'm not sure. But the point I'm making is literally around the block from this girl's house is a bus stop. And she has a 40-minute walk to school in the morning, and that's without snow or rain. Her parents have been late for work, often dropping her off, etc. My question is, how do the bus routes work? And can it be a situation where perhaps you are judged on the distance from the nearest bus stop, which could be literally 10 feet, as opposed to the distance from your house to the school? Because I pick my daughter up in the school, just not to labor the point. Half these buses are leaving with a dozen kids on. Giant, I'm not talking about the mini bus, I mean the giant buses. It seems like an awful waste.
It does. And I'm going to answer first before we turn it over to our star of the night, Mr. Harrison, because he deals with buses and transportation. But I'm going to start off with saying we have no control over busing. Believe it or not, I mean, every year we get it. We get the questions, the issues. Parents who have kids maybe in the same school but different grades, or one qualifies, one doesn't. And technically, we have no say over busing. That is in stone. Any changes in busing would require the community to approve a plan where essentially we're already much lower than the state mandates now that were approved the last, I don't know how many years ago, but the last several times it's been put up to the community to include buses for everybody at the cost of, I think 7 figures. It's always been turned down. So that's not something the board has the ability to change. I can't tell you, you know what, Frank, you're right. Your kid should get a bus, and starting Monday they'll have a bus. That it has nothing to do with us. It's out of our control, unless putting it up to a community vote again. The last time I think we had a transportation committee, they recommended no changes because the expense of it to the number of kids who would have benefited was low. So I know there's many parents who have the crunch, especially now with the Princeton plan, maybe some kids in different buildings being home for one, and the other one's on their way. It creates a lot of issues. I don't think there's any good way to do it. The buses are mostly empty. I think a lot of parents drive. If you ever dropped off a child at drop off or pick up, a lot are being driven. But yet, we have to have a seat for every child. Because if they all decide to take the bus, nobody can be left out standing in the cold. You can't take the bus, it's full. So to just say, bus is empty, let anybody jump on it, sounds good in theory, but technically we just can't do it. But then I'll let Mr. Harrison fill in, I guess, anything I've missed.
Do you see the absurdity in having a bus stop literally a block away, not even, and the kids walking to school a mile and a half, when our neighbors are literally on?
It goes by grade, so I'm guessing that the kid who's walking is older and does not qualify.
She's in 8th grade.
Yeah, so that would be my guess is the answer for that. Again, if you ask me, I'd say let the kid on the bus. I mean, I get you, but we can't make that decision. It would impact our state aid. It would be killed on it. So, but Mr. Harrison, would you like to add to that at all?
Yeah, there's not much I can add. That was a very nice summary of what we're facing. Just to give a little bit more detail, kindergarten through 3rd grade, students a half mile or more get transported. When they move from 4th to 6th grade, it's a mile, and then from 7th to 12th, it's a mile and a half. And that's causing some of the problems you're probably alluding to. The other factor that I'd like to talk about is the students who we transport that live 1.5 miles or closer to school impact our state aid negatively. So for each student that we perhaps provide more transportation to, our state aid would be impacted negatively. So for instance, I think currently our not allowed pupil decimal factor decreases our state aid by 12%. So that's the factor that Mr. Zachary just mentioned. If we allow more students by vote, by the community, to come on our buses, that decrease to our state aid would become larger than it is now. So it's not just on the expense side of the budget, it's also on the revenue side as well.
Yeah, Frank, it's not just us and administration busting anybody's chops or saying, you know, make the kid walk. I don't want the kids walking. I'd rather have the kid on a bus, especially if it's empty. It makes sense.
$5 million and the district has no leverage to say, hey, this is what we're gonna do.
The voters can. So maybe next year or two, we put together another transportation committee, and they can make another recommendation, but going back, I can't tell you, over 10 years, 15, it's always been denied. The voters don't want to approve another 1-2% increase in the budget to give X number of kids a ride in the morning or afternoon.
So this is all set by the state.
It's set by the state, but the voters have approved even less restrictive in the past, or many years ago, but just not recently, to make it zero, to make every kid, whether you live across the street from RCK or, 5 miles away, you'll always get a bus. The voters have always, the last few times, have said no. But we don't have the power to just vote on it and do it ourselves. I wish we did, because we'd probably change a lot about the busing.
Yes.
But we can't, because every year it's an issue, but we're helpless in it. Anything else? Any other issues? Any other public comments?
May I speak?
Go ahead, Charlie. Sure.
Will I be heard by the public? Like at home?
Yeah, I believe that's on. We haven't cut that off yet.
All right. Do you want me to stand up here or just
Wherever you want.
All right. Well, first I want to say thank you very much for the awards. That was very nice. And I think I might have some good news for those who do support the Redmond.
Well, is this on anything on the budget?
Oh, no, sir.
Oh, okay. Because right, you're signed in, you'll be able to talk about that afterwards.
I got you.
This is only on agenda items, so just to keep the organization of it. But we'll let you speak. All right, so no other comments? All right, be resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the resignation, terminations, leave of absence, position abolition, employment appointments, tenure appointments, and salary changes in accordance with applicable provisions of education law and civil service law as cited in the certified personnel attachment. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
On this personnel report, we have Mr. Hansen, Mr. Mike Hansen. Mr. Hansen, would you please stand? Mr. Hansen has been with the East Islip District for the past couple of years, serving as an assistant principal in the high school, and most recently, the director of math and science. He has gone through a very rigorous interview process, and we are proud to and pleased to announce him as the new principal of the East Islip Middle School. We are confident that you will be an amazing addition to the middle school, and we wish you success, and we look forward to your accomplishments.
And along those lines, Mr. Manzo and Dr. O'Rourke, the board has decided that we are going to remove the interim tags on them, and the team you see up here is a team, they've done such a great job, and the synergy between them, the board has been very happy with this team. So we are removing those interim tags from the names, and we'll be giving them contracts and permanent positions here in the district, and this is a team you will see next year, so congratulations.
I would just like to thank the board for this opportunity. I'm humbled, and certainly you can rest assured that I will do the very best I can for our district, and I will certainly continue to work closely with our team to have a very positive, productive environment for our students and our community. Thank you.
It's a great team, and we're very excited and looking forward to next year and having a team for the entire year and just to continue working for you guys. So thank you, all of you, for what you do. Okay. Be resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the resignations, terminations, absence, position abolitions, employment appointments, tenure appointments, and salary changes in accordance with applicable provisions of education law and civil service law as cited in the non-certified personnel. Take a motion.
Motion. Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye. Okay, on the agenda for the non-certified, we have Jessica Perticone. She's being appointed as our school district treasurer. Congratulations. Jessica comes to us from a vast experience with Colin Zanowski, auditors that work with school districts. She was there as a senior accountant, total for 4 years. She also has experience with 2 other tax firms that she's worked for recently. With the board and administration's support, we were very lucky to find Jessica. We had an unexpected, unanticipated resignation from our current treasurer, who's pursuing other opportunities. We're very excited to have Jessica join our staff. We look forward to her starting tomorrow. So, congratulations.
Jessica, please don't let Mr. Harrison's ability to clear out a room dampen your excitement, because he's really a great guy to work with. You're going to have a lot of fun here, and he's done some great things. So welcome aboard, and I promise you, it's definitely more exciting than what those people anticipated. And you're going to love it here, so welcome to the team.
Also, I just want to wish Ms. Brabender well in her new endeavors.
Yes, for everything she's worked hard in the district, has done a great job, and we wish her well in the future. Be resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the memorandum of agreement between the East Islip School District and the East Islip Teachers Association concerning varsity tennis girls and fall coaching and extracurricular pay. Motion.
Motion. Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda. Does anybody want anything removed from the consent? Be resolved, the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, recommends the Board of Education approves the consent agenda items 9.1 to 9.13 in accordance with the action presented for each item. I get a motion.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
9.14. Be resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education accepts a donation of $1,000 from EIMAX to be used towards the buses for the middle school 8th grade band field trip to Music in the Parks. Take a motion.
Motion. Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much to EIMAX. You see them at all the concerts, working hard, raising money for our kids, and this is one of the things that they decided to do with the money. So it's really, anytime you see EIMAPS, please stop by, go to the events. They're a great group. It's a lot of fun. So, and you see all their hard work shown here with their very generous donation. So thank you to EIMAPS and all that you do for our kids. Be resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the attached list of appropriation changes for the 22-23 school year. I get a motion.
Motion. Second.
Discussion.
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Old business. Anybody have any old business?
Ms. Walsh?
Good.
No old business. New business. want to go? You want me to go first?
Want Charlie to go first?
No, Charlie's, he's coming up.
Okay.
He's on deck.
First of all, since the last meeting, I had the pleasure of going to the Timber Point talent show, which was unbelievable, watching these kids from kindergarten to second grade, what they would do, and it was funny, and really, these kids were unbelievable. Also, I went to the Breakfast of Champions at the high school, and I just want to commend the students that were picked for these honors, and they were, I believe, in 10th grade. These are the kids that are going to be the juniors and seniors, coming up seniors, and it was nice seeing them getting recognized by their teachers. There's a few upcoming events. There's STEAM Day here on April 28th. It's unbelievable. You saw the robotics team. Well, here you're going to have, besides the older robotics kids showing what they do, you'll have the younger kids, the elementary school. I think it might be split up into two things, one in the day, possibly one at night. But you should follow that up on the website. Also, the EJ Autism Walk Run is April 30th, Sunday. Not everybody has to run, it's 4 miles, but it's always a fun day, and it's for a great cause. And then lastly, I believe the high school talent show is the 20th, this week. So if you have a chance to go, you can see, I saw the talent from the K through second. I'm sure this is going to be just as exciting.
Mr. Rowland, question for you. So with the Timber Point talent show, was well attended, correct?
Very well attended.
I just wanted to add just a list of events that coming this Saturday. CEPTO is sponsoring a craft fair that's actually going to be here on the grounds of the district office. So I just encourage everyone from the community to attend.
CEPTO is also another great organization we have here. A lot of the things you'll see there. The money goes, right back into the district. And EJ Autism is another great one also. I mean, B and all that she does. So please, if you get to go to these events, go. You'll get much more out of it than we. Also along the lines of new business, do you have something else, Billy? It's been in the news lately, or its mascots, Redmond. Not going to ignore the elephant in the room. We do not have much information at this time. We're hearing it through Newsday like you are, until we hear from New York State, until we get a memo from our attorneys. So any speculation right now is just that, speculation, until we hear from the state. And it is our intention, if the state gives a directive, to fully comply with the directive. But at this point, we don't know fully when or what that is. So we'll fill you in as we find out ourselves, and keep you informed as best we can.
And all this talk of talent, you know what we found out tonight? Mr. Manzo plays the trombone.
And that Billy and I have no talent.
We have no talent. I knew that already. So instead of the air horn, we expect that trombone around. That's it, Demond.
That's it. Any other new business? New business? Okay, public comments, and I just asked everybody, please, no names, no personnel, just keep it general if you have anything specific.
Frank
Thank you.
passes.
Frank passes.
Charlie Carlisle.
Charlie, you got the floor, finally.
Just wanted to say thanks again for the awards. It was very nice. We spoke of Newsday. In fact, I have an article in here. Guy Edwards, the director of the East High School Library, who was researching the Redmond. Turns out, based upon this information, they were known as the Rogers men. Mr. Rogers was a phys ed coach and teacher back in the 40s, and they changed the name from Rogersman to Redmond. It has nothing to do with the Native Americans. Based upon this, so maybe the mascot itself, like the head, would have to go, but I believe from what I'm reading here, and they did a lot of research, like a few weeks worth, was the Rogers men to the Red men wearing red, so instead of calling them the Rogers men, it was named after Mr. Rogers, maybe not the American Indians, so they can't be insulted by that if it's not named after them. So maybe we can work with that.
For years, we've been trying to remove any images that might be offensive for a long, long time. Every year you see less and less, and we've gotten, people have complained about it, but by the same token, we thought it was, and if you want to give us what you have there, I love the argument. We're going to see Betty Rosa on Monday.
It's definitely.
And we could definitely,
From 46, Newsday. So, Rogers men, red outfits, so.
It's worth a
Might
shot.
have nothing to do with.
We have nothing to lose, we might as well try, but.
Why not?
We've heard that the Red Devils in Center Riches is out, even though
Thunderbirds.
it has nothing to do with, they changed all their imagery,
Yeah.
so I don't know where we're gonna go with it.
You know what they have on the Capitol building? A beautiful statue. And when you first look at it, and I only noticed this because my son took a defensive driving course and he got it in the mail. It was a big stamp. And I'm looking at it, it's a $1 stamp. And I'm like, that looks like an Indian headdress. So I researched it, and it's the Statue of Freedom, and it says to evoke Native Americans in the Capitol building from the 1850s. Statue of Freedom, Native Americans. So it seems like we get these messages. I think it's something to do with the state personally, but Rogers, Redmond, Mr. Rogers, I thought I'd bring it up. But thank you.
Thanks for the info, Charlie.
God bless the United States of America.
You got it, Charlie. Thank you. Thanks for getting up tonight and speaking. Steph?
That's it.
That's all we got. Ms. Walsh, you want to say something? Thanks for coming to the show. The next Board of Education regular business meeting and annual budget hearing will be held on Tuesday. On Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023 at 7 p.m. That's the annual budget hearing.
What's going on over there?
So May 2nd, 2023. Need a motion?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I think you beat me.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Charlie.
Thanks again.